12 hours, candidates across the country will be sitting for their KCPE exams, and we do wish them all the best. Many thanks indeed for joining us on your most qualified news bulletin, KTN Prime.
Of course, tonight we will be looking at a dramatic shootout that happened in Mudhangari here in Nairobi. We will also be looking at the issue of repatriating Somali refugees, and we spoke to some of them to find out their opinion about being taken back to their land. That's coming your way in just a few minutes. Many thanks for joining us on KTN Prime.
We start on the roads, and at least 5 people died when a bus from the Easy Coach company collided head-on with an oncoming trailer. At
least 16 people were injured in the accident which occurred along the Eldoret-Nakuru highway.
KTN's Edith Kimani has the details of this latest road tragedy.
At approximately 4:30 p.m. Monday, a trailer transporting timber and a 32-seater Easy Coach bus met here in the worst possible way. This is where 5 people would take their last breath. Among them, the driver of the trailer. Eyewitness accounts suggest the accident occurred when the driver of the trailer lost control of the vehicle, ramming into the oncoming bus.
Mimi nilikuwa nimesimama huko juu kabisa kwa center. Nikaona gari ilikuwa inatoa moshi. Ilikuwa pulling. Mbele ni Mercedes. Tukaambia driver, tukasema hii gari haina brake. Ilikuwa ina swing nyuma. Tukaambia driver ingia kwa shamba. Driver ingi akafanya nini? Wa lori akafanya nini? Akateremka. Sasa kuteremka kwake ndio tukakuta hii mambo huko chini.
It took little time to get curious onlookers onto the scene, something that may have saved the lives of 16 survivors who were rushed to the Rift Valley Provincial Hospital.
Wenye nimeokoa ni watu 8 wenye nimeokoa wakiwa uhai, lakini wenye tumeweka kwa gari wakiwa maiti ni watu wengi. Hata nilishindwa namna gani, roho yangu ilichafuka sana mpaka nikashindwa namna gani, kwani kuna namna gani.
I'm cautioning the drivers to be careful, to be cautious, because now we are heading towards the festive season, and because of even the weather condition, because of the rains, the roads are not very good.
The Salga accident comes just 4 days after 2 buses in Kitili were involved in yet another head-on collision, killing 8 people. This is the 3rd road accident in just over a week, with the first of the 3 claiming a dozen lives in Mutindwa after a train crashed into a bus. Transport Cabinet Secretary Engineer Michael Kamau has since taken measures largely seen as reactionary in an effort to curb the increasing number of life-claiming accidents. But the accident this afternoon may yet present a new challenge to Kamau to come up with a national, long-term solution to the problem. Edith Kimani, KTN.
Of course, as Edith Kimani reports, that's just one of the many accidents that have been witnessed on Kenyan roads in the last couple of weeks. Hope is rife that these accidents can come to an end and soon. Let's move on. Embattled Lands Cabinet Secretary Charity Ngilu is defending herself against claims of violating the Constitution. Well, this comes as Eldas, a member of Parliament, Aidan Canaan, prepares to file a motion in Parliament asking the President to dismiss her from Cabinet. Betty Chalo has the details.
It is nearly a week after the National Assembly adopted a report that indicted the Lands Cabinet Secretary for making irregular appointments in the Lands Ministry. And Charity Ngilu broke her silence today, saying that there are officers in her ministry who have vowed to bully her out of office.
Sitaogopa hata kidogo. Kazi ile nimepewa na Mheshimiwa Rais Uhuru Kenyatta nitaifanya.
A self-assured statement that could be as a result of seemingly growing backing from the Jubilee coalition.
I can categorically confirm that we will not support that motion and we will oppose it.
However, President Uhuru Kenyatta, in a passionate speech made last week, said his government is not willing to work with non-performers.
We must begin offering true service and be people of integrity in this country. In the Ministry of Lands and all these other departments, please recognize that we must change.
Political analysts say that with Ngilu having been a key partner of the Jubilee coalition during the elections, it would be almost impossible for the same coalition to punish her, as the consequent results could work against them.
Does the president have an alternative to her? The question that would concern me, would he let Ngilu go with Kalonzo still on the prowl on the other side?
Meanwhile, eldest Member of Parliament Adan Kainan is preparing to file a motion to send Ngilu packing. However, this might be a tough call, seeing that some members of the opposition coalition have openly declared their support for Ngilu.
Mheshimiwa Rais, mbwa hamli mwanawe. Mbwa akimla mwanawe, kuna dosari pale.
According to Article 152 of the Constitution, a cabinet secretary can only be removed from office through sacking by the president, resignation, or a parliamentary process. If a parliamentary process is initiated, an MP will require the support of at least 88 members to propose a motion requiring the president to dismiss a cabinet secretary. This is the current position of eldest Member of Parliament Adan Kainan. If this proposal is supported by a third of the members, then a committee will be formed to investigate her afresh. If the cabinet secretary is found guilty, the speaker shall promptly deliver the resolution to the president, who will then dismiss the cabinet secretary. Betty Kyalo, KTN.
That latest dilemma facing government is the basis of big question tonight, and we are asking you, should Ngilu be sacked over the illegal appointments in her land's docket?
Of course, she is defending herself against claims of violating the Constitution. Let us know what you think. Send your yes or no opinion, of course, plus a short opinion. We will sample that during this bulletin. You can tweet us at KTN Kenya, at Lindah Oguttu, at Ben Kitili, or you can send a short SMS to the number 22155. We will be glad to read some of your comments.
Indeed, and a day after a pact was signed for the repatriation of Somali refugees, generations of Somali refugees born in Kenya now calling for a review of that ambitious plan. Refugees who spoke to KTN say they would rather stay in the refugee camps than return to Somalia. KTN's Angel Katusi reports.
Estimated 600,000 registered refugees in the country and over 500 unregistered refugees, majority from Somalia. And now the government has signed an agreement with the Somali government and UNHCR to voluntarily return these refugees to Somalia, an agreement that majority of them are yet to understand. For Arafat Abdul Karim, the repatriation plan is one that he never saw coming. He has never thought of a day he will be expected to live where he was born, Kenya. Arafat, who just cleared his high school, was born here. His parents came to Kenya at a time Somalia was being torn apart by civil war. Arafat says majority of his age mates were born here, where they call their home. To them, Somalia is an unknown territory which they have only heard of, just as any other global citizen. Many of the educated youth here claim they are unwanted back at home, as they may cause a regime change through their education, something they fear will make them a target of the Al-Shabaab.
They are unkind and unhuman people. They are not willing to return those educated youth to Somalia.
This is a generation that is caught in confusion. Holding on to Kenya is their only option, as they were born here. Then there is this generation. Suleka Salat fled Somalia with her parents in late 80s. Then she was a child with no knowledge as to why her parents brought her here. Now she's all grown up, married, and a mother.
Sahi kurudi Somalia ni shida kubwa sana. Kwa sababu hakuna mahali ya kurudi. Saizi naona tayari nchi yenyewe haijatulia.
Her parents are dead and were buried here. Suleka, like many in her status, will not know where to go, if at all, they are to return to Somalia.
Sijui mahali nitaenda kukaa, sijui mahali nitaanzia, sijui mahali hata nitamalizia, because watoto wanataka shule, kuna wengine wako 8 hapa, kuna wengine form 2 hapa.
Hussein Hassan Jibril, another refugee caught in the repatriation predicament, came to Kenya in 1991. Then a young man. Years later, he got married. His wife, a Kenyan from Wajir.
Sasa mimi niko na taabu ambaye hawezi rudi Somalia sahi. Out presence of the father. How can they become, I don't know.
Though they agree that Somalia is their land, they say the country needs security intervention to stabilize it, to ensure those willing to return to their motherland are safe. But for now, they remain adamant. They will not go back. Angel Katuse, KTN.
Concerns of refugees there who have spent years in Kenya. Some have even been born here, and they're wondering really how they will deal with that repatriation exercise. That is a story we're keeping an eye on for you in the coming days, in the coming weeks and months, of course. Let's move on. The Kenya Certificate of Primary Examinations officially kick off tomorrow, as an estimated 800,000 pupils are set to sit the exams. And the Kenya National Examination Council has sent a stern warning against exam cheating. NEC says it has so far nabbed over 30 people for allegedly cheating in the ongoing KCSE exams.
At the Olympic Primary School, a total of 400 pupils will be sitting the KCPE examinations that will begin on Tuesday. The pupils making the final touches for their biggest test yet. An accumulation of years of hard work, all to be decided in the next 3 days of examinations.
I have been personally writing compositions with them every day. A composition today, tomorrow, Insha. And I know we have given them enough practice.
As students count the hours to the commencement of the examinations, the Kenya National Examinations Council says all is set for the big day, which will see around 800,000 candidates sit the KCPE.
We are going to have 132,187 contracted professionals to manage this examination, supervisors, invigilators, security personnel, as well as examiners who will mark the examination.
Wasanga warned against examination cheating, saying the NEC Act of 2012 is very clear on the punitive measures to be meted on pupils or anyone aiding pupils to cheat. The NEC boss said an indication of how serious his body is in fighting cheating can be seen on the success so far achieved in nabbing offenders in the ongoing KCSE examinations. But as Wasanga counted his success, Kopet is accusing the examinations body of harassing teachers in the pretext of fighting examination cheating.
Many of the cases which have been reported to us by the concerned stakeholders, including the public, who sometimes, as I told you, walk in here, send SMS on examination regularities, are being acted upon where we are able to reach.
How do we have exams being conveyed through SMS? This one cannot be from a police station. This one must be from the Kenya National Examination Council.
Both Kupet and NAT have also indicated that teachers will boycott marking of exams if their allowances are not increased and exempted from tax.
When supervision and vigilation is finished, first we have to process the results, and then we process payments. Why do we process the results? We get reports of how the supervision was.
With just 24 hours to one of the most anticipated tests in the country, these students say they are ready and determined to excel in these exams. Charity Kimani, KTN.
All the best to all the KCP candidates. Now, hundreds of delegates are converging in the Polish city of Warsaw in what experts say is one of the most important global meetings in the recent past. The delegates have to agree on how to reduce the emission of gases that are now blamed for extreme weather patterns in the world. Kenya, alongside other developing countries, are pushing to get help in dealing with the rising impacts such as frequent droughts and hunger. As KTN's Joe Ageo reports from Poland, scientists are warning that time may be running out for poorer nations.
For a country like Kenya that is already experiencing the adverse impacts of a warming planet, the concern here at the climate talks in Warsaw is clear, seeking like the rest of the developing world to find help in dealing with the damage already done. Mithika Mwenda is from the Pan-African Climate Justice Alliance, a civil society group pushing for a better deal for the continent.
The rains have become completely unpredictable. We rely on hydroelectric power in driving our industries, and when there is no water, there will be no power, and food will be expensive.
But the worry is growing worldwide. Unpredictable and extreme weather, such as the latest typhoon in the Philippines, is now a daily headache for billions across the globe. And experts say humans, especially those from the rich countries, are to blame.
This was not the problem of Africa. We are not the ones that are emitting CO2 into the air to pollute it, but we are the first to be hit.
That is made clear in a recent report published by leading scientists, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC.
The question is, do we want to jeopardize the future of all living species on this planet?
A global agreement known as the Kyoto Protocol, which seeks a reduction of gases that cause global warming, is now in its final leg, having been extended to 2020. But this meeting must come up with a new formula involving the whole world on how to reduce these gases, known by experts as greenhouse gases.
What happens in this stadium is not a game. There are not two sides, but the whole of humanity. There are no winners and losers. We all either win or lose.
Now, for many of the countries represented at these talks, the question of climate change is already a matter of life and death. And they'll be banking on the next 2 weeks to see whether there can be some light at the end of the tunnel. Joageo, KTN, Warsaw, Poland.
Two police officers are nursing gunshot wounds after a dramatic confrontation with armed gangsters in the city. A senior police officer was among those shot and wounded as police officers trailed a gang of 2 suspected robbers. The chase that ended in a residential house did not stop until the 2 suspects were gunned down by an elite police squad from the GSU. Take a look.
The house in Lavington where the highway gun drama came to an end after 5 hours of what police say was a dramatic chase. The gang of 2 men described as young and not very old engaged police officers in a gun battle along Wayaki Way. The vehicle they were traveling in veered off the road before they commandeered a second one, disembarked and took off. The dash was, however, short-lived. A visibly shaken Christine was rushing home to prepare dinner before her employer arrived home when she heard a loud bang.
Skia gunshots from the back. Nikakuwa na tension, nikapigia driver simu, nikamwambia mimi nasikia gunshots naogopa. Akaniambia, wewe sikia kwanza iko wapi? Sasa nikasikia watu wanaongea from outside the gate.
Christine says she saw 2 men, one in his early 20s and an older man. Both were wielding guns.
Kutoka ndio nikakutana na hao macho kwa macho, walikuwa wawili. Sasa mmoja akaniambia nifiche, huyo mwingine akaenda huko nyuma. Sasa nikampeleka kitchen kwa pantry. Nikamwambia acha nikufungie ndio usipatikane. Sababu nilikuwa nishaona police already na nilijua once ameona polisi mimi nitakuwa hostage. Nikamdanganya, nikafunga milango, nikaacha mlango moja wazi na nikatoroka.
Several police officers were hot on their heels. A senior police officer in charge of Mudangari police station was shot and seriously wounded. It was time to call in the General Service Unit. The standoff did not last long. When the officers made their way into the house, 4 loud bangs and the guns fell silent. It will later emerge that one of the gunmen tried to scale up a perimeter wall in the compound but was gunned down. The older gunman who engaged the elite unit in the fire exchange was killed inside the house. A GSU officer was also hurt during the 5-hour standoff that somehow mirrored the Westgate siege that saw 67 people killed. The gang, according to the police, was planning to stage a robbery at a petrol station before police disrupted their plans. 2 pistols and an alarming 20 rounds of ammunition were recovered from the slain men in what police termed a normal robbery attempt cut short before it took place. Denson Sarigo, KTN Prime.
Welcome back to KTN Prime.
Indeed, let's now look at the issues that are affecting this government. President Uhuru Kenyatta's government seems to be sinking deeper into confusion as its various arms engage in turf wars, and the National Assembly appears to be at the center of it all.
Well, various leaders are now expressing concern, as KTN's Wilson Buru reports.
Mahakama wanaweza sema mambo yao vile wanataka, unajua hiyo ni kazi yao kusema na kutoa maoni, lakini na sisi bunge lazima tufanye kazi. Wataendelea kusema na sisi tufanye kazi. Sio mbaya watu kusema na kutoa maoni huko, lakini sisi tunataka kufanya kazi, sio kutoa maoni.
It is a statement that has received mixed reactions, being seen mostly as a sign of disrespect to the judiciary. Prior to this, the National Assembly had defied a court order that had stopped it from tabling a report on the recommendations of sacking some of the Judicial Service Commissioners. Just 2 months ago, members of the Judicial Service Commission failed to honor summonses issued by the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee over its move to suspend the Chief Registrar to the Judiciary, Gladys Chalet. Then, last week, President Uhuru Kenyatta accused Parliament of hampering his government's fight against corruption with endless summonses of ministers, even though it is the prerogative of the National Assembly to provide an oversight role to the executive.
But surely you cannot have cabinet secretaries living in Parliament, to the point that whenever I'm even busy looking for these people for issues that require to be done, I'm told they're sitting in Parliament. Some of them have even been called for meetings that run concurrently. 2 committees calling them at the same time, the same day, demanding their how are we going to work?
It now seems as though the government is working against itself, with the endless squabbling and accusing Parliament of being a rogue institution whose only respect is to the decisions it makes. However, the leader of the majority in the House, Aden Duale, says this is absolutely not the case.
The National Assembly is fulfilling its constitutional mandate under Article 95 of the Constitution. And Article 95 of the Constitution is very, very clear on the role and the functions of the National Assembly.
The chairman of the Constitution Implementation Commission, Charles Nyachae, says the Constitution is very clear on the mandates of each arm of the government, but adds that there is need to clear the air over the same.
That there is a need for all the offices and organs that are established by the Constitution to have a common understanding of the mandate of each one of them, so that each organ understands not just its own mandate, but the mandate of the other organs, and where and how they interact.
It now remains to be seen whether the government will put its house in order and consequently offer the services that are much needed by Kenyans. Wilson Buru, KTN Prime.
National government under pressure to put its house in order. Let's take a look at what's happening in the devolved government. And the Council of Governors has defended county governments over the revision of budgets. The governors denied that at least 22 counties are yet to revise their budgets as claimed by the Control of Budgets. The governor spoke during a retreat in Naivasha. KTN's Rita Tinina was there.
The 2-day county executives retreat in Naivasha got underway with 15 governors in attendance. But as deliberations on how best to carry out devolved functions kicked off, governors took issue with the Control of Budget over the status of county budgets.
And it's creating a lot of confusion. I think they need to come up very clear. If they can do so within this meeting, we'll be happy to go away knowing exactly which counties' budgets have not been approved and what is required of us.
Some counties are unable to finalize their budgets.
Last week, the Controller of Budget, Agnes Odhiambo, said 22 counties were yet to submit their revised budgets to her office. 17 had revised their budgets and submitted them, while only 8 have balanced budgets. But governors say this is not the case.
We want to make it very, very clear that all counties have now, to the best of our knowledge,
rectified any anomalies in their budgets.
While the Controller of Budget blamed the delay in revision and approval of budgets and finance bills on the go-slow by members of county assemblies, the governors say confusion on budgetary allocations is also to blame.
The county allocation was actually done by the Senate sometimes in August, and it actually became law at the end of August. Funds started being released. So really, which budgetary ceilings were counties expected to adhere to?
The governors are also taking issue with the national government, saying it is not fully committed to devolution. They say they will push through the Senate to have more functions devolved to county governments.
And they were not devolved for flimsy reasons. And the law provides that for those functions that the county government feels should have been devolved and were not devolved, an appeal lies in the Senate.
The Governor's Council says it will convene a meeting with the Controller of Budget to clear the air over the status of county budgets. Rita Tinina, KTN.
You're watching KTN Prime, and we have a very interesting story for you. It appears that today was the Men Liberation Day. Well, according to the Maendeleo ya Wanaume chairman, the men should have gone on a fast today. And as KTN's Sharon Mumanyu reports, the organization has been baptized and now bears a new name. Take a look.
You know how you've marked all the important dates on your calendar? Well, as a man, November 11th has been one of those dates you may just need to circle. Observe it every year and call it
World Men Liberation Day.
And it comes with its own rules and regulations.
Men will greet women with their left hands. That is to mark this World Men Liberation Day. This is a no-sex day. This is a no-smiling day. And this day, men are not supposed to eat food.
Instructions from the Maendeleo ya Wanaume organization, which has apparently now gone global, complete with the appointment of international figures in its leadership, or so we are told. It is now called the Global Gender Empowerment Network, or GNET.
We have appointed a women president, and he's none other but the first lady of the USA president, Her Ladyship, Her Excellency Michelle Obama.
Very important it is that the day is recognized by the government.
We have written letters to the president asking him to also announce and to accept this protest and to announce to Kenyans as a nation that it will be a public holiday.
So did the men observe this day?
Sioni kama na make sense. Juko pande yangu sio inanisaidia nini.
On my opinion, I don't know why they boycott for that. Because even as ladies, we have our own issues, but we don't boycott, we don't complain.
The chairperson, Ndiritu Njoka, also took the opportunity to launch his book titled Coup d'Ogrâce. We know the phrase to mean an action taken to end or destroy something that has been getting weaker or worse. But let's not be puzzled.
This book is detailed, has detailed the issues that men are going through, the problems that men are going through worldwide.
I feel that women are an integral part of the community. There is no reason why we should take a special line and say, look, today we are treating women in a particular way. Men and women are one and the same thing.
To some, the concept stands for a great cause. To others, it is merely noteworthy. To yet others, the concept is downright ridiculous. Well, whichever standpoint you take, the concept has been birthed and the date set. Well, it remains to be seen whether this will earn a permanent spot on our calendars and gets to be observed as a public holiday. Sharon Momanyi, KTN, Nairobi.
So, my colleague Ben Kitili finally has someone who's championing for his rights.
My rights, and I was supposed to shake your hand with my left.
You're not supposed
to correct that.
You're not supposed to shake my hand with the right hand, and then he's trying to outline some of the issues that you, as the men folk, observe. Do you really think that day is warranted?
I don't really think there's a world war of the sexes. I mean, that's just my own personal opinion.
Not worth it.
I don't think it is.
Okay.
But we'll see how far it goes.
Let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. Now, one of the darkest chapters in Kenya's 50-year history unfolded in the 1980s when the government turned to forced detention and torture as means of stifling political and social dissent.
Now, the centerpiece of the government's strategy was the Nyayo House torture chambers, and the longest-serving detainee in this horror house was Israel Agina, a political operative associated with the Odinga family who racked up 96 days without succumbing to the state's coercion.
KTN's Nyanza-based reporter Fredo Mulo caught up with the Agina, who recounted the horrors of his days under custody.
2 decades in the life of Israel Agina characterized the quality of leadership that Kenya has had. In 1969, as the first Kenyatta administration descended into autocracy, he was the first person to be jailed for sedition, a term of 4 years. But if the first experience was painful, what befell him in September 1986 was simply horrific.
They took me to Parklands police station, where they held me up to about 8 o'clock. Then they came back for me and took me to Nyayo House on that same day, and I was to stay there for about 96 days.
Fresh from exile after the government extended an amnesty, Agina landed in Kenya at the height of the Mwakenya agitation that had turned the state super paranoid.
I was subjected to torture, beatings, denial of food, denial of sleep, and being kept in waterlogged rooms for hours and days without food.
The routine was simple. New detainees were treated gently and urged to confess to trumped-up charges. As time went by, however, the methods of extracting a confession would become more savage.
There are times you're stripped naked and kept in the cell, and during the interrogation, they beat you. First of all, they ask if you know any of them. If you don't know them, then they proceed with the torture, the beating.
They beat you every day for 3 days?
Yeah.
Then after that, you put in one of the waterlogged cells.
So first you're sprayed with water, cold water, and then they shut the door.
In between sessions in waterlogged cells, detainees would be whisked blindfolded to the top floor, where a panel of police officers would conduct interrogations. Agina refuses to name them, some of whom later rose to positions of power and influence.
One of them was an MP recently, I think it's from Meru, last parliament.
What's his name?
I don't know. You know, I forgave them because they are doing things that they didn't believe in themselves. And they were trying to show the regime that they were working.
Exasperated at Agina's resolve, the government gave up and instead served him detention orders, after which he was taken to Kamiti, Manyani and Shimolatewa prisons. Released after 17 months in 1988, he was soon rearrested, tortured at Nyayo House for 7 days and jailed as the state dealt with a new threat, Koigi wa Mwere.
We used to tell somebody like Kilonzo that if we come out, we are going to retire him. But he said, even if you retire me, you'll require other policemen to enforce law, because you'll be wanting to be protected. And we said, no, we shall not want any protection from policemen like you.
After all these experiences, Agina never ran for political office, focusing instead on a firm he had started with former Prime Minister Raila Odinga in 1973, East African Spectra. 2 years ago, he won a case against the state and was awarded 2 million shillings in compensation for the unlawful torture and detention. Despite the time lost, today he is busy managing his portfolio of businesses. From Kisumu City, I am Fredo Mulo.
Good evening. Start of a new week, the 11th of November 2013. I'm Joy Doreen Bira. Let's take a look at business. Tea traders have decried low-volume sales at the Mombasa tea auction as a result of new government policies. Michael Karanja has the details.
Tea exports remain a major source of dollar inflows and revenues for the country. In 2012, tea sales netted 102.8 billion shillings. However, the introduction of a number of regulations into the sector threatens to derail its input to the national economy. Tea prices at the Mombasa auction declined to an average of $2.34 per kilogram following the introduction in January last year of a level on tea imports and exports that equals to 1% of the customs value. This has seen some buyers opting to buy tea from other countries available at the auction to avoid paying the tax. Add to that the fact that a new 16% VAT that has been introduced on tea services, and that adds to the powder keg, making Kenyan tea very uncompetitive. According to the East African Tea Traders Association, the high cost of production has also led to the decline of auction prices, eroding farmers' earnings. The lobby group says the industry is facing serious cash flow problems as tea continues to be sold below its cost of production. To this end, the Tea Trade Body wants the scrapping of the ad valorem levy to stabilize prices, as well as the scrapping on VAT on local tea sales to encourage domestic consumption. The body also proposes that producers slow down further tea expansion to avoid oversupply to a shrinking market. Michael Karanja, KTN Business.
The county government of Homa Bay is holding negotiations with a European country that, if successful, will see the export of omena to Europe, according to Homa Bay Governor Cyprian Awiti. A delegation from the Isle of Man, a wealthy nation neighboring England and Ireland, had started talks that could see the fortunes of Lake Victoria fishermen double. Awiti says Homa Bay currently harvests an estimated 35,000 metric tons of omena annually, most of which is consumed locally and the rest transported to other surrounding towns. Speaking at the meeting held in Homa Bay, Isle of Man Environment, Food and Agriculture Minister Phil Gon said his country was keen on importing the delicacies in large quantities. Currently, trading in omena is regulated by the national government. This includes an annual 3-month ban of fishing and sale of the commodity to allow for breeding, especially during the long rain seasons. And just who knew that omena would be exported? But well, that is good news for the fishermen in Kisumu City and that area of Homa Bay. Now, the Consumer Federation of Kenya is demanding that Energy and Petroleum Cabinet Minister Davis Churcher appoint substantive heads to key parastatals in his ministry, or they go to court. Philip Keitani brings us the details.
KenGen, Kenya Power and Kenya Pipeline Company are now operating without substantive heads several months after their CEOs left office. But according to the Consumer Federation, the process have been made by the various boards to fill in the positions, and it is the Cabinet Secretary delaying the process.
The excuses we have read in the media has lack of gender or waiting for regional balance, appointment of insiders or outsiders, or any other excuse to fill the plum positions are, in our view, very weak to sustain the delay.
COFEC says this lull in appointment is creating, among other things, anxiety within various parastatals, as well as a bad reflection on Minister Churchill's ability to handle the high-profile energy and petroleum docket.
We must also mention one issue about the growing concern that nearly all board positions and the key management positions, against provision of Article 232, subsection 1, HI, are mostly held by Kenyans from two communities, a scenario that must be reversed. The sector must be reviewed to reflect the face of Kenya.
COFEC now wants the minister to produce sufficient evidence on why he cannot appoint heads to these crucial departments or refer the process back to the boards for a fresh start. Failure, they threaten that they will seek legal redress in the minister's actions.
Invoke provisions of Article 119 of the Constitution to petition Parliament through the relevant committee to summon the CS to explain his inability to deliver, and if found culpable, commence proceedings to get him out of office.
The vacancies came about when the former KenGen Managing Director Eddie Njoroge retired. Kenya Power's Joseph Njoroge was appointed a principal secretary, while Kenya Pipeline Celeste Kalinda was sent packing on claims of nepotism. Philip Ketan, KTN Business.
Thanks, Philip. Now, beverage firm Coca-Cola has opened a call center as it seeks to deal with increased complaints from clients. The firm says this will help it deal with customer issues more effectively in the growing Kenyan and regional market. The call center is based at Nairobi Bottlers in Embakasi, and the center, the global firm also says, will be key to receiving and dealing with feedback from its consumers on various brands. Now, call centers have in recent years become a global best practice for large corporates to help them deal with diverse issues raised by their customers spread across several markets.
Each one of us here understands that the challenge of not dealing with or handling a concern from one of our consumers can have far-reaching consequences to any business. Like those before us, we must evolve with the times and adopt solutions that will continue to jealously guard and protect our corporate image and brand equity.
Now, on a Monday, let's just take a look at how the money market fared, how the Kenya shilling fared against other currencies and also the stock markets.
In other news, the 4 suspects allegedly linked to the Westgate Mall siege will remain in remand until January next year when their case begins. Also, suspects in the murder of the parents of the MP Fonya Kach were arraigned in court. Details coming up next.
The 4 suspects accused of masterminding the Westgate siege appeared before Nairobi Chief Magistrate Kiari Waweru. They are Mohammed Ahmed Abdi, Liban Abdullahi Omar, Ibrahim Aidan Thek, and Hussein Hassan Mustafa. The state sought for more time to complete investigations. The suspects were therefore remanded in custody as they await the commencement of their case in January next year. The Kiambu County residents are expected to know the fate of the Financial Bill 2013 on Thursday this week before High Court Judge Justice George Odunga. This comes after the Jamo Foster Welfare Association moved to court challenging the bill, seeking to tax both the dead and the living in the county. The welfare group, through their lawyer, they claim that the governor and his team never consulted Kiambu residents prior to the drawing of the bill. The hearing of the petition filed by activist Walter Barasa against his extradition to the International Criminal Court will now be held on December 4th. High Court Principal Judge Richard Mongo adjourned the hearing following the demise of Barasa's mother. Mongo also extended the deadline for the filing of submissions in the case, giving interested parties more time to submit their papers. Suspended High Court Judge Joseph Mutava received a reprieve after one of his accusers withdrew the complaint against him. In a letter to the judge, the complainant Magnet Ventures, through lawyer Nelson Harvey, says the accusations against Mutava have been withdrawn. Finally, 6 suspects, among them 2 women, were arraigned before Nyando Law Court but were not charged. The CID police requested for more time to complete their investigations over the murder of the parents of Nyakach MP Aduma War. The MP's parents were beaten with blunt objects before their house was set on fire, burning them alive. The case will come up on 19th November this year. Winnie Kamau, KTN.
It's now time for sports. I'm Nicholas Mudimba. Kisumu's county government has moved to address concerns over the presence of the city's dam site right next to Moitu Stadium International that is slated to host the Sakafa Senior Challenge Cup. A war of words had early erupted between the county and the FKF boss Sam Nyamoya, who said the tournament could not take place at the venue due to Federation's health concerns. KTN's Fredo Mulo gives us the story.
weekends ago, Nyamoya set off a firestorm when he visited the stadium to assess renovation progress and said whatever was done here, Sekafa would not take place next to the city's dump site. Last week, officials took to sprucing the facility up, and today they had this to say.
What we are trying to do is to ensure that the dump site is put to such an imaginable standard that it does not pollute the air and the litter does not go out. What we are doing is sanitizing the dump site.
The Kachok dump site was put into use 40 years ago on the edge of the city, but a recent growth in population and real estate investments has brought the city closer to the filth.
Relocating this dump site is on process. It is in progress, and as soon as we get alternative dumping site, we shall relocate Kachok. So I would just like to assure everybody that the dump site will not be hazardous to the people who come to Sekafa. In fact, there will be no smell at all, and as you've seen, we are fencing.
Last week, the governor put up a spirited defense of the renovation progress and accused the FKF chair of being the obstacle to Sekafa in Kisumu due to a delay in delivery of artificial turf that is the responsibility of the federation. For KTN Sports, I am Fred Omulo.
Moving on now, Marta Strak from Poland braved the scorching heat of Mombasa to win the 2013 Mombasa Triathlon African Challenge, which involved swimming, cycling and athletics. The athletes converged at the Treasury Square before they plunged into the Indian Ocean for 1.5 kilometer swim and cycled for 40 kilometers before they culminated the event, the grueling 10-kilometer run. Rak, who is not ranked, timed 1 hour, 48.37 minutes to emerge the new champion of the event. Italy's Lucas Faccinetti, who is ranked 144th globally, came in second ahead of Daniel Hofer from Italy, while South Africa's Travis Johnston, who is ranked 148th, was fourth. Kenya's Soleil Balala, who is based in Mombasa, finished 9th overall. The event was attended by participants from Italy, Poland, South Africa, Namibia, Britain, US, Romania, Australia, and Kenya. Moving on now, the 5 candidates for the 2013 African Football of the Year award have been revealed. Ivory Coast's Yaya Toure has made the shortlist for the 5th consecutive year and is joined by Nigerians Victor Moses and John Obi Mikel. Burkina Faso's Jonathan Petropia and Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang of Gabon are all in the list.
Lindah.
Indeed, that is a story that has been on the international headlines for the last couple of 2 days, actually, I think. And this is a typhoon that has robbed so many of property and, of course, lives. The number of those dead after this typhoon hit Philippines is estimated to be over 1,000. That number is expected to change as authorities down there confirm the number of people who have died as a result of this typhoon. And, of course, meteorologists say it is one of the strongest typhoons ever recorded on Earth. So you can imagine how strong that was. Take a look.
This is what the inside of a super typhoon looks like. 250-kilometre-an-hour plus winds slamming into a city. A white haze of screaming noise, smashing windows, tearing metal, water and flying debris. Just minutes after we'd finished our live shots telling headquarters that we were moving to safer ground, cameraman Brad Olsen shot this on the place we'd just left.
Okay, guys, I think we can wrap it up.
As the destruction there continued, a floor below, terrified residents huddled together, finding protection against the flying spray and mind-numbing noise, some praying for their safety.
Well, we're sheltering in the corridor
It's a relatively secure area, I think, where we are. It's a very substantial hotel, this, and we are away from windows. But all around us, you hear the sounds of windows breaking, you hear the sounds of large objects falling, crashing to the floor. And underfoot, it is now just a deluge. And if you look behind me, I don't know if you can see it, the staircase behind me is now basically a waterfall.
And then a torrent of black water began pouring into the hotel. The storm surge had begun. Within a few minutes, it was at ground floor window level. A panicked family, now trapped in their room, smashed the window and screamed for help. We managed to get the mother across to safety using a foam mattress, and it immediately became clear the cause of her panic. Their daughter was severely disabled. Storm chaser Josh Morganman and I went back across to get the terrified girl to safety, and CNN producer Tim Schwartz helped rescue the rest of the family. The waters only rose a little higher. The height of the storm, in fact, had passed. 2 hours later, the winds had lost their lethal strength. Our live position was a ruined shell, but as we walked outside, it was immediately clear that so much of this city had suffered so much more than we had. Andrew Stevens, CNN, Tacloban City, Central Philippines.
Humanitarian crisis in the Philippines following that typhoon.
The typhoon Haiyan, it has now made landfall in Vietnam. Of course, the strength has reduced considerably, but authorities there are not taking anything to chance. All precautions are being put in place to ensure that the residents there remain safe. You're watching KTN Prime. You're almost done with this bulletin, but let's look at our big question tonight. It's connected to Cabinet Secretary Charity Ngilu, and we were asking you if you think she should be sacked over the illegal appointments in her land's docket.
Indeed, that is the big question tonight. This is how you've polled. 53% say yes and 47% disagree. Let's take a look at some of your comments. And Silas Nongesa says yes, she should be sacked. She has been accused in both cabinets, Kibaki's and now the current. She has a case to answer.
Atonya Stanley says yes, the president can prove to Kenyans that his recent public announcement about graft aren't merely rhetoric by firing Ngilu.
George Ngugi disagrees, says that docket has hidden cartels that are fighting Ngilu. I do not support.
Jonathan Boside says she seems to be corrupt. In every ministry she steps in, she lives with a corruption mark on the walls.
Another note here from Kamore Daniel. He says, takes an interesting look. Never. Why the ladies? Shole, Baraza, now Ngilu.
Fred says yes, she violated the rule of law. It's high time we put an end to impunity.
Another yes. Clement Edward says why not? When we all know she broke the law, this law seems selective.
So those are your opinions on our big question tonight. We thank you for writing in, for being part of our bulletin, and of course for your company. We'll see you tomorrow. Sleep well. I'm Lindah Oguttu.
Many thanks for joining us. I'm Ben Kitili. Good night from the Standard Group Center.